Have you ever found yourself in a position where somebody thinks they're in competition with you, but you never signed up for the race? Hello and welcome back to the podcast. For those of you who are new around here, my name is Ruth and I started this podcast to amplify the voices of women in leadership, to talk about what we do beyond the school gate, the good, the bad and the funny. So I have a really interesting topic to talk about today. I've done a little bit of a reel over on Instagram, a little bit of a teaser, because I'm really keen on hearing people's thoughts. I found myself not that long ago, but not super recent, in a situation where the word competition just came up again out of nowhere. I think I've done a podcast before on comparison and competition, but this was in a different context. So I suppose I'll start this podcast with a question. Have you ever found yourself in a position where somebody thinks they're in competition with you, but you never signed up for the race? So you have an engagement with somebody and you realise, oh, you think we're in competition with each other. But this whole time, I thought you were cheering me on. I thought I was cheering you on. And I thought there was an authentic bond. But I actually realised you think that I'm competing with you or anything that I do means that what you do isn't good. And maybe you're keeping a mental tally in your head. And I was just like, wow, I wanted to share it. I won't go too much into detail because it will be really obvious, I think, to some people who listen. But anything that I have or I have done, they have a story that they've done the same thing or something better. They ask questions so they can tell you something they've done. So, for example, my friend rips me for this because I say I'm over fat and over 40 and I've started to run. Who do I think I am? I do say it with jest. I am confident and happy in who I am and how my body is. I just think it's funny because, you know, it rhymes and I think it winds some people up. I think it's hilarious. I digress. We go to the gym 5 days a week, me and Ahmed, and that is for me, for my mental and my physical health. I feel my best when I've worked out. But at the beginning of August, I started running out of nowhere. And for those of you who know me, you know I've got knock knees. So I don't know who this 40-year-old giraffe thinks that she is, but she's outside running 5k every morning, actually in the gym running 5k every morning. So if I use that as an example, how are you? I saw on Instagram you posted that you were at the gym this morning. How was it? Oh, it was so good. I did a 5k and I had a personal best in this amount of time and I only stopped twice. And that for me, like this is the level I'm at. Do you know what I mean? For those of you runners out there, please don't judge me. You know, you're just excited because the person's like liking all your stuff, engaging with your stuff. So you're thinking the person's on your team, right? Like, oh my God, they're going to really want to hear the detail. And you can see they're like smiling and nodding and nodding. And then all of a sudden, they break the eye contact. You can see a shift in body language. It's almost like they're not looking at you anymore and the smile is fading. So then I'm just like, okay, I'll just wrap up my conversation kind of thing. And once I see that physical change, then I'm like, yeah, but I feel great. How are you? Oh, yeah, I'm good, yeah. Over the weekend, I ran 37 Ks. I flew to the moon. I went and saved the world. I flew all the way to Africa and I went and fed some children in the village. Then I came back on the weekend and I started my business. And look, what is it they say? Reflection and projection, right? But it felt like they only asked the question because they wanted to tell me about all the great things they've done. Like that happens quite frequently. Then I'll just ask loads of open questions because I'm excited for the person. I'm like, oh my God, how was the village that you went and fed these children? How about your new business? Like, wow, send me the link. I'll promote it for you, sis. Like, because that's just the type of person that I am. And I think the relationship's kind of always been like that. And I've always been like, okay, well, that's kind of what it is. But recently it's just like, there's been like snarky comments where I'm just like, I'm not telling you this thing to make you feel bad. And just because I can do this thing and I can do this thing well, doesn't mean that you can't do it or you can't do it well or that I do it better than you. Like you're putting those measures in place. And I was just like, how do you engage with somebody like that? My default setting is, okay, bet I see that you think we're competition. Now we're going to transition very slowly to arm's length. So it will start to become those superficial conversations. How are you? Great. Oh, isn't it windy today? Or I like your shoes. Wow. And then continue on my journey. I don't want to do that because it's not the type of person I am. One of my favorite things in the world is about making deep connections with people. But engagements like that do make me feel a kind of way because I'm an empath. And I don't know, for those of you who have used like the disc to look at like your personality types and stuff, I am an S and an I. So I am very intuitive and I am very supportive. So my default setting isn't to back away from people when they engage and present like that, because I'm an S and an I. But it does leave me feeling a type of way. Like, it makes me feel bad, but there's nothing for me to feel bad about. It'll be great if you guys could nip over on Instagram. I feel like this is a little bit of a counselling session. I feel so much better just getting it out, to be honest. Nip over on Instagram and give me some tips and tricks on to how you would engage with that person, because I don't really want to back away from them, but I also know that I have to have firm boundaries in place, because on occasions where I have been what I feel has been double crossed. So I don't want to not have those boundaries in place. I think it's really important that I do. But I'll be really keen to hear how you guys would deal with this type of situation. What are some of the tips and tricks that you would use? And maybe I can try a different approach to this scenario. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk, and also thanks for being a counselling service for me. I really appreciate that therapeutic intervention. And I shall see you over on Instagram, and I shall see you in the next podcast. Thank you. Bye.